Welcome back to another episode of Low Tech Garage. I'm Josh, and today we're talking about if buying an X308 XJ or XJR is right for you. And before we dive into today's video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. I can guarantee you're going to like this content. If you like Jaguars, we got a bunch of other cool content already out there and more in the works. So please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And of course, if you see our videos in your feed and decide you don't like them, you can always unsubscribe later. But I got a feeling you're going to want to see what comes up next. So let's dive right in. Now, one of my pet peeves with videos like this is when by the end of the video, you might have learned a couple little facts about the thing, but they never give you a definitive answer on should you buy this, should you not. It's always, and at the end, it always depends on you. I'm not doing that to you guys. By the end of this, I'm going to give you clear categories, and if you fall into one of those categories, yes, it is right for you. No, it is not right for you. You will learn something by the end of this, and it will help you make a decision. All right, here we are outside the car. Now, the first thing that most people say they love about this generation of XJ and XJR is the looks. It is just an absolutely beautiful car. Probably, in my opinion, the best looking sedan ever made. Honestly, just long, low, slick, beautiful lines, very simple, but yet with all the modern creature comforts you could possibly want. Every single line on this car is aesthetically pleasing, and honestly, I just don't think there's a single thing I would change. And honestly as well, I am a huge addict when it comes to lowering my vehicles, but this car, I've looked at it multiple times and I just don't actually want to lower it. But outside of looks, what else do you get with this vehicle that makes it worth considering? And we can best answer that with some of Jaguar's own marketing, which is basically the concept of grace, space, and pace. Now, what they mean by that is essentially that you get the grace and beauty of a luxury vehicle, you get space so it's comfortable, and you get pace as in performance. And having lived with this car for a while now, I can confirm you definitely get all three of those things. You're going to turn every head when you pull up because these look classic. Honestly, they look a lot older than they are. Again, this is a 2000 model year car I'm in right now, and every single time I tell someone that, they are surprised. They think it's older than that. And again, just looks the part, looks like old money. It's amazing. As far as space, the X308 is not as large as the generation after, the X350. You do get more interior room with them, but I'm a 6 foot tall person, pretty comfortable in here. Okay leg room in the back, unless you got like a 6'6" person that's trying to squeeze back there, it can get a little tight. But remember, this is a British car. It was designed as a, large vehicle over there, but compared to American market cars, it is a little smaller. But pace is where this thing really shines. The XJR specifically as well, it makes an absolute ton of power, especially for the displacement of the engine. And of course, it gets out of its own way like crazy. It is like a mini rocket ship. And even the regular XJs, they're a higher compression 4-liter V8. They are phenomenal. They absolutely move smoothly, quickly. It's a lovely experience. Every single touch surface in this car is going to either be leather or wood. They just smell expensive. It is fantastic. Again, you've got the wood grain steering wheel. You've got, leather on every single touch point, the armrests. Obviously, you got the wooden shifter knob. All of the switchgear and everything in this actually feels pretty good too, especially for the early 2000s where 90% of stuff just felt like junk. They actually did a remarkable job avoiding that. And, I'm not saying by any means that it's like Rolls-Royce or anything like that, but it's pretty darn good considering this was made in the year 2000 when a lot of stuff was just absolute garbage. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't show you guys the party piece of the XJR, and that is the supercharged dual overhead cam, all aluminum, forged internal 4-liter V8. So mine is slightly modified with a pulley, big intercooler, and cold air-ish intake. And this thing is comfortably making, notably past 400 horsepower at this point, which is pretty impressive. I mean, you consider you're making, big V8 power out of a low displacement V8, but it does it quietly. It does it with, linear performance as well. It doesn't have like a big boost curve because it is just a traditional root style blower. So this is just probably one of the favorite, power plants I've ever worked with, and I've experienced quite a few now. And it rides on 18-inch rims with a square setup. So basically they are 18s and you got a 255 series tire with a decent amount of sidewall. And that is very important for these because that keeps the balance between performance, but also ride quality and comfort. That actually leads into my favorite thing about this car. This was the performance version of the XJ, but this was made before the time where every single thing had to go around the Nürburgring and be razor sharp and track tuned. And, we've got BMW to thank for that. Honestly, that was their marketing campaign, and every other luxury car brand started to follow, even modern Jaguars. they've kind of lost the soft, comfortable edge. Everything has firmer suspension. You know, it's got to have those sharp, snappy shifts. It's got to have, you know, just the ability to like whip around corners. But really, that's not what a luxury performance car was supposed to be originally. This was basically supposed to be a big, comfortable car that they just sort of stiffened up a little bit, added power to, and just made sure it was very capable and very competent, you know, both in straight lines and around corners. But they weren't going for lap times. They were going for the perfect balance of quality, comfort, and performance. Now, here comes the sticking point. This is the cost of ownership. This is what freaks everyone out the most, because you know you can step into one of these for cheap. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've probably looked up the prices of XJs, XJRs, and gone, oh my goodness, these things are pretty affordable. I mean, you know, the time I bought this, a nice clean XJ could be had for between $4,000 and $5,000, and this one I purchased for $8,000 at the time. Pricing's probably gone up some since then, but still a ton of car for the money when you consider that this one sold at its dealership for roughly $80,000 in 2000. So, you know, I mean, considering I paid basically 1/10 of the factory price, and it feels like that quality of car. I mean, it feels hand-built. It feels like just super luxurious, like you would expect for that price point. To get that for $8,000, I couldn't go out and buy a Toyota Corolla for that. But then you get the car home and the realities of living with it set in. And of course, Jag has a reputation. We all know that reputation. So this was earned back in the days with their Lucas Electrics. That's probably the most famous issue, was just the electrical gremlins that you got left, right, and center in all Jags. They were just nightmares. And then, of course, you end up with some of the mechanical issues as well. Some of their V12s, especially the earlier, well, I should say the mid-range ones. When they moved over to fuel injection, things like that, they had some pretty serious problems. And even the very, very early XJs and XJRs of this generation did have some motor things to consider as well. So a lot of people are just like terrified to get into one of these because there's the risk of, okay, I'm going to buy it, drive it for a week, and something's going to go bang, and suddenly I'm out a ton of money. So I'm going to walk through what that actually looks like, and this is where we're going to start organizing you guys into categories. Now, if you've been following our channel for a while, you already know Low Tech Garage. We work on these cars. That is what we do. Very comfortable working on pretty much any car up into the mid to, early mid 2000s without question. I'll work on anything. Start getting into the later 2000s, I'll still do it, but, I might have a little more hesitation. That's when you get stuff like direct injection, you get stuff like, your CVT transmissions, you've got, more computer stuff like that. So to give you an idea of what we're super comfortable with, anything before that, I'm going in. I don't care. It could be the most expensive car in the world. It could be a supercar. I will turn wrenches on that car. No hesitation, no fear. You get into those later, more high-tech things. It's not that I'm not going to do it. It's that I will hesitate and I will kind of, take my time before I take the leap. But the beauty of this car is, while it's more complex than something basic like my old Crown Victoria, which was from the same generation, it's still very approachable. It is still just nuts, bolts, electrical plugs, hoses. It works basically the same. There's just more of that stuff. But with there being more of that stuff, it makes projects take longer. Now, if you've ever taken a car to a shop to have something fixed, they charge a shop labor rate. They're going to basically bill you by the hour for the actual physical work they're doing. Obviously, that's what we want them to do. They have to get paid for the work that they are doing. And those labor rates can be expensive because, quite frankly, it is skilled labor. I think our shop mechanics don't get enough credit. They are very, very important to the car world that we live in. Not every one of us drivers is going to be a comfortable or competent mechanic. It shouldn't be expected these days with the complexity of cars increasing. But, just be aware that working on these cars just takes longer. There's just more stuff to get out of the way. There are more parts to work around. And of course, potentially more parts could break along the way, or more components or systems could be broken than a very simple car. Like I said, the Crown Vic, I'll probably reference that multiple times in this video because that was a fleet service vehicle that was designed to be dead simple. So we're going to start with the people that fall in line with me, which is essentially people who are comfortable turning wrenches on cars. You don't have to be quite as fearless as me either. Even if you're a little uncomfortable, I can tell you this car is not that hard to work on. I've had the supercharger out of this. I've had the cylinder heads off of this. I've been basically, the only thing I haven't done is pull the rotating assembly on the motor because I didn't have to. But, I've replaced the engine mounts. I've come close to pretty much almost pulling the motor out of this thing with all the different services that I've done. And after experiencing all of those different things, I have a pretty good understanding of the amount of time that it takes to work on, and also the cost of parts for this and how they stack up compared to other vehicles. So if you're comfortable working on your own cars and your intent would be to buy this and basically do all the work yourself, you will pay an inflated price for certain components, but you will be pleasantly surprised that actually a lot of these components are shared with Lincoln and other vehicles like that. So you can get very reasonably priced parts, and the used parts that are available for this are actually pretty plentiful as well. So certain interior trims and things like that are actually pretty straightforward to get. So, you know, the fear of, oh my goodness, I'm going to buy this and then one component, like little thing's going to break and it's going to cost $400 for this and $300 for that, and suddenly I'm replacing two things and it's $1,000. That's not the case. Honestly, most of the big services I've done have been a few $100 total in parts. And I say big services like I replaced almost every hose in the engine bay all at the same time. I replaced, you know, I did the cylinder heads and I did the upgraded head gaskets. I mean, monster services. And again, each one of these services is a handful of hundreds of dollars, not thousands. So the component price for this is actually not that bad. But there will be things that you will pay a slight premium for. So I just did the front suspension on this. The back suspension's coming up very soon. I very purposely bought the OEM Bilstein shocks. It's something that a lot of people recommended because they are just really good. You can get cheaper shocks for this, but if you want to do it right, expect to pay, you know, $450 for the shocks. They're not cheap, but they're not as expensive as like coilovers or things like that. And again, you could always cheap out and get the other ones as well. And that's probably perfectly okay to get the car serviceable. For me, I do drive this car relatively hard and I want to have the proper shocks in place for that to get the full experience. But even $450 is not that terrible considering I chose to spend that because I'm being particular. Now moving on to if you're not comfortable working on cars. If you basically would need to take this to the shop anytime something breaks, again, we have to think about the amount of service and labor you're going to pay and the stigma that comes with this car. This is where you have to be very careful. There are 3 European specialty shops in my area. All tout the fact that they work on all European models and brands. When the cylinder heads were needing to be pulled on this, just out of curiosity, I called them just to see if I could get some quotes. I was, if it was going to be more affordable than not. I was very busy at the time. I considered maybe even letting a professional do that. All 3 of them said, nope, we don't work on those. Not touching it. It's, and for whatever reason, this Jag has this huge stigma, this generation of Jag, I should say. For some reason, they're willing to work on the newer ones, which are way more complex, but yet this one, they wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. After working on it, I can tell you, like I said, a couple extra parts and stuff in the way, a couple extra systems, but it really wasn't any more complex than working on my Crown Vic. There was just more stuff to go through. So I have no idea why they were so terrified of this thing. It was not that bad, and I'm glad I did it myself because I saved a ton of money. But if you are not competent with cars, and that's perfectly okay, if you're not comfortable, pulling stuff apart and doing it yourself, I would definitely hesitate unless you have a decent bankroll. Give you an idea, so like I said, let's say you purchased the car for a similar price point I did. You spent $8 grand on it, something like that. It's probably going to need some services, being real. It'll have, mileage probably approaching 100,000. You may need to have timing chains done. You may need to have, some hoses replaced and things like that. There are some basic maintenance things, which I will, by the way, do a separate video on soon, that you're going to spend money on. And because the mechanics are going to have to go pretty deep to get to that stuff, you are talking quite a few hours of labor. Be prepared to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 just in labor just to get this stuff done. And this is where I say, just be aware that you might be looking at an $8,000 car, but in the first handful of years of ownership, be prepared for that to suddenly become a $16,000 car by the time you're done, just because of all the labor and service that will eventually stack up to that. Now, doesn't mean this thing's going to break down and leave you stranded on the side of the road. It just means be prepared that when something does come up and you want to address it, you're going to have to pay for it. So we've cruised through the type of driver that this car might appeal to. We've also talked about the different types of budgets and type of mechanic that this car might suit. The last thing to consider is actually your self-restraint. And this is mostly applying to the XJR, but this thing is pretty fast. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, this is a world-beating car, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I get it. It's 2023 at this point. There are tons of very fast cars out there, but you have to remember 400 horsepower is nothing to shake a stick at. And this car is very deceptive with how it delivers it. I mean, you can put it in sport mode, turn traction control off, stomp the gas, and it will blow the tires loose like a muscle car. But if you leave it in regular non-sport mode and you just roll into the throttle, it's going to pull away in second gear, and it's smooth, it's buttery, it's quiet. and then you look down and you're doing 110, 120 miles an hour, which is like lose your license speeds. So if you don't have great self-restraint, if you can't necessarily trust yourself, you may want to consider getting the non-supercharged model. I know that's a crazy thing to say because most people will go, oh, I can handle it. But I mean, younger me, I wouldn't trust younger me to have this car. I mean, I made stupid choices like a lot of teenagers did. I drove recklessly and things like that. And I'm glad I drove cars that had like 200, 250 horsepower back then, because I could max those things out and push them to their limits before I reached mine. This car will reach its limits and you may be on the edge of yours or past yours. And that's not just dangerous for you, that's dangerous for other drivers. So keep that in mind. It may be a novel or fun concept to have a powerful car that's very fast, but just be aware, if you're not a very competent driver who, is very comfortable, experienced, things like that, you may not want to buy one of these and just get out there and blast off in it, because you could get yourself in a lot of trouble very fast. So I promised you guys clean and concise buckets, and this is the part of the video where we are going to do that. This is where we're going to tell you, yes, you should buy this. No, you should not buy it. Now, if you are on a tighter budget, but you want a lot of car for a little money, that's fine. This is a great fit as long as you are willing to work on this car yourself and you are comfortable turning wrenches. If your plan is to basically do all the work yourself, you can learn and do it all from our videos, because I've done almost everything on this car at this point. And this is a perfect car for you. If you've been looking at one of these, it is a beautiful, fun car. It is luxurious. It is comfortable. They look great. They sound great. It gets so much love. Just be prepared that when something is, needs some service, you're going to do the work on it. You're going to source the parts, take some time, track them down. You will be involved with working on this car. So if that is you, this is the perfect vehicle for you. What are you waiting for? Subscribe, close this video, go buy one, please. Now, if that's not you, if you're uncomfortable working on this car, if you've only done a couple things, like maybe you've changed your oil and changed your spark plugs, and you would probably end up wanting to pay a shop and just not want to deal with it, I'm not saying don't buy the car. I'm just saying make sure your budget falls in line with that. Be prepared to buy this car for X thousand dollars and then potentially double that over the lifetime of ownership of the car. Still a lot of car for the money. Again, I'm talking under 20 grand all in. Again, still cheaper than a Toyota Corolla pretty much. And you've got way more car, a way nicer car. Just keep in mind that that will happen at some point. I say will. May likely happen. You could get super lucky. You could buy a regular XJ for like 6K and not really need to do anything to it for a handful of years. And if that's the case, that's awesome. But if you have that budget, like I said, what are you waiting for? Go get one of these. You don't want to be driving around in a Corolla, right? So get yourself something beautiful and luxurious. If you're not sure if you're going to have that budget and it would be maxing you out to buy the car and then the maintenance is a concern, this ain't the car for you. I hate to say it. I would love to see another Jag owner on the road, but I would also hate to see you in a bad spot. So if you could afford the car, but perhaps don't have, like I said, thousands of dollars over a handful of years to spend on maintenance, you may want to just get something a little more basic that, if it does break down, a shop is going to charge a little bit for, but it's a Honda Civic, something like that, that may be better suited for you. So we're going to get to the buckets when it comes to the type of the car, right? So we need to consider what this car offers and if that lines up with what you want. So if you are looking for something that is comfortable, soft, luxurious, this car absolutely checks those boxes. This is a beautiful place to be. The factory sound system is phenomenal. Like I said, leather, wood everywhere. It looks fantastic. It's just a beautiful thing when you're walking up to it. It's pleasing aesthetically. You get in, it smells fantastic. Everything you touch is comfortable. If that's what you're looking for, I haven't come across a better car, and I've experienced some nice luxury vehicles, Cadillacs, things like that. This blows them away. This is proper luxury. If you are looking for something that is a little more performance oriented, you want maybe thicker seat bolsters that really hug you in, you want that Alcantara steering wheel, you want a stick shift, if you want something that when you rip the wheel, the thing's like on rails, this isn't the car for you. It may go fast, but it's not going to have that track day feel to it. So this is the perfect balance of luxury and performance, in my opinion, but your opinion may differ. And that's where I say, if you're looking for the Razor's Edge feel, if you're looking more for the BMW feel, quite frankly, go buy a BMW. You will be much happier with that car. But if you want something that's a little softer, a little nicer place to be, imagine the jazz music playing, you know, imagine your auto climate control doing all of its stuff and you're just floating down the highway. It's absorbing all the bumps, you're just cruising. But then if you need to, you can stick your foot in it and it will go around a corner pretty well. If that sounds appealing to you, this is your perfect car. And the last two buckets, which are you responsible or are you not responsible? And again, this is more of an XJR specific thing. If you're not responsible, you could still get the XJ and get all the luxury. It is still a quick, fun car, but it's not like a put you in jail quick, fun car. If you don't trust yourself necessarily, you know, to not maybe catch yourself doing 120 without noticing it, and I hate to say it, you know who you are. Young me was absolutely in that category. Don't get the XJR. Get the XJ. I mean, honestly, you will still be happy. It's still basically, I think, 300 horsepower. I mean, it's a quick car, but it just doesn't have that same, you know, you could lose focus and suddenly you're going to jail in you know, bracelets kind of thing. If you're older, more mature, or if you're just more of a chill driver that every now and then wants to just be able to have some real power and you can trust yourself to use it responsibly, XJR is perfect for you. I mean, I can tell you this is my favorite power plant of any car I've ever had. The way it delivers the power is unlike anything else. And I very, very acutely pay attention to how I am driving this car, where I am driving this car to make sure that I'm being responsible with it. You saw I posted a video of a burnout recently. That was on an empty back road, scouted out, no one coming. I mean, you have to be cautious with a vehicle like this because, you know, people are people. You don't want to put someone else in danger. And, you know, we're talking about powerful vehicles here. Quite frankly, I would say the same about a basic Mustang GT. If you're a little reckless, maybe don't get a Mustang GT. Maybe you don't need the power, and you shouldn't be ashamed of that. You know, it's something where practice on a slower car, get comfortable, get, you know, more balanced, and then move up to something with more power once you can trust yourself with it. And that's something I'm proud to say that I did, and I think more drivers should do. You see a lot of these people absolutely mishandling powerful vehicles. No one on the road thinks you're cool. Every person that you fly by at like 110, you know, thinking you're super awesome is probably looking at you going, really? Like, you just put me and my family's life at risk for your fun. And honestly, you weren't even thinking about it. So this falls firmly into that category. And it's an uncomfortable topic to talk about, but I have to talk about it. So clean buckets. If you're responsible and trustworthy, this is a great car for you. If you're not sure, maybe you fall in the other bucket, to be honest, and just consider getting the regular XJ. So there we go. 6 clean and concise buckets, and you need to decide which one you fall into, but that should give you a firm answer of yes or no. Is this the right car for me? I want to see as many people as possible driving these. I think they are beautiful, beautiful cars, and I'm sad when I see one end up in a junkyard or sitting outside someone's house because everyone's afraid to touch it. I want to see them all restored to their former glory, to be honest. I think this is basically the best Jaguar ever made, and I want as many of them to be saved as possible, but I also want to make sure that they end up with the right people, and it's perfectly okay if you're not that person. There's no shame in that, and I would rather it go to someone else because it'll be more loved by them, and you will be happier if it wasn't right for you. But if it was right for you, you will not find a better vehicle. And if you look through some of the comments here, you'll see how often someone says, that was the best car I ever owned. And of course, we are now at the end of the video. If this was helpful to you, I would love to know if this helped you make a decision. I'm hoping to see a lot of people saying, that was it, I'm now going out to buy one of these things. That would make my heart very happy. If this was informative to you, please hit that subscribe button. We've got some more great content, more informative content coming out as well, and some more fun content as well coming out with this car. Of course, hit that like button as well. That tells people that this was actually a good video, that you did learn something from it. Please, right now, hit that like button for us. And then, of course, if you really liked it and, you know, if you want to support the channel in a further way, we recently upgraded our Patreon. We have a lot of cool stuff, and you will be able to get content that's only available over there to our patrons. So consider hopping over there. You can click the link right in our channel profile as well. It'll take you right to it. And obviously, our patrons, we thank you so much. You help us do what we do. So until the next time, I really appreciate you watching, and of course, we'll catch you on the next video.